Liora and Finn were the kind of best friends who did everything together. They lived in a quaint village surrounded by rolling green hills and bordered by the mysterious whispering woods. Everyone in the village knew stories about the forest. It was said to be alive with magic, filled with enchanted creatures, and guarded by the legendary guardian owl. Most people stayed far away, but Liora and Finn couldn't resist the allure of adventure. Beyond the edge of the village lay the whispering woods, a forest that seemed alive with mystery. Its towering trees stretched so high that their tops disappeared into the sky, and a gentle mist often curled around its borders. The villagers spoke in hushed tones about the woods, sharing tales of strange lights, magical creatures, and the legendary guardian owl said to watch over it all. The stories varied. Some said the forest blessed those with pure hearts, while others warned of its dangers, whispering of people who ventured too far and were never seen again. Most villagers avoided the forest, their lives filled with simpler, safer pursuits. But Liora and Finn were not like most villagers. They loved a good story, especially one laced with mystery, and the idea of a magical forest right at their doorstep was too tempting to ignore. To them, the woods weren't frightening. They were an open invitation to adventure. Liora, with her boundless energy and endless curiosity, often imagined what might lie beyond the first few trees. "Do you think the guardian owl is real?" she would ask Finn, her brown eyes sparkling with excitement. Finn, ever the cautious one, would adjust his glasses and shrug. "I don't know," he'd reply, sketching in his notebook. "But if it is, I'd love to draw it." The pair often sat by the edge of the woods, their imaginations running wild. They imagined trees that whispered secrets, streams that glowed under moonlight, and animals that could talk. Liora would spin grand tales of treasure hidden deep within, guarded by riddles only the clever could solve. Finn would listen, half lost in her words, and half busy capturing the scene in his sketchbook, his pencil moving swiftly across the page. Despite their shared fascination, Finn always hesitated to step inside. "What if the stories are true?" he'd say, glancing at the shadows beyond the trees. Liora, on the other hand, was braver, or perhaps more curious. "If the stories are true, that's all the more reason to explore," she'd reply, tugging at his sleeve. The forest seemed to call to them, its soft rustling like an invitation meant just for the two of them. On certain evenings, as the sun set and painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, the woods would seem to shimmer, its edges glowing faintly in the twilight. It was on one such evening, with the scent of honeysuckle in the air and the distant chirping of crickets, that Liora finally made up her mind. "Finn," she said, standing on the wooden fence that marked a village's boundary, "we're going in. Tonight." Finn looked up from his sketchbook, his face a mix of excitement and apprehension. "Are you sure? What if we get lost?" Liora grinned, hopping down from the fence. "We won't. Besides, what's an adventure without a little risk?" Finn couldn't argue with that. Though he worried about what they might find, he trusted Liora more than anyone. Together, they gathered a few supplies. Liora grabbed her lantern, and Finn packed his notebook and a piece of chalk to mark their path. With hearts racing and the thrill of the unknown ahead, they took their first steps into the whispering woods. The forest welcomed them with an almost magical warmth. The path beneath their feet felt soft, blanketed with moss, and the air was cooler, filled with the earthy scent of pine and wildflowers. The trees stood tall and proud, their branches weaving together to form a canopy that let through just enough light to guide their way. As they ventured deeper, the sounds of the village faded, replaced by the gentle hum of the forest, whispering, alive, and full of secrets waiting to be uncovered. It all began on a soft, golden evening. Liora was sitting on the wooden fence at the edge of the woods, her bright yellow boots swinging back and forth, while Finn lay on the grass nearby, doodling in his sketchbook. "Finn," Liora said, her eyes fixed on the dark trees beyond. "Do you ever wonder what's really in there?" Finn pushed up his glasses and looked at her skeptically. "I don't just wonder, I know. Grandma says the trees whisper secrets, and animals can talk, but only the brave and kind are allowed in. Everyone else gets turned around and ends up right back where they started." "That's just a story," Liora said with a grin, hopping down from the fence. "Let's find out for ourselves." Finn hesitated. "What if it's true? What if we get lost, or the guardian owl finds us? Then we'll prove we're brave and kind," Liora said, grabbing his hand. "Come on, Finn. You can't draw adventures if you never go on one." Reluctantly, Finn closed his sketchbook and followed her. As they stepped into the forest, the air changed. It felt cooler, and the soft rustle of leaves seemed to form a melody. Shafts of golden light filtered through the canopy, making the ground sparkle as if dusted with glitter. "Do you hear that?" Liora whispered. Finn nodded, his eyes wide. "It's like the forest is humming." They walked along a winding path that seemed to appear just for them. Soon, a family of rabbits emerged from the underbrush. Their fur was as white as snow, and their eyes twinkled like tiny stars. "Travelers," one of the rabbits said in a soft, tinkling voice. Liora gasped, and Finn clutched his sketchbook tighter. "Why have you come?" the rabbit asked. "Want to find a treasure," Liora said boldly, her heart racing. The rabbit tilted its head thoughtfully. "The guardian owl will test your kindness and courage. Only those with pure hearts may proceed." Before they could ask more, the rabbits disappeared into the shadows. They continued deeper into the woods, where the trees grew taller and the air smelled of wildflowers. The path led them to a bubbling brook, where they saw a small squirrel sitting on the bank. It held a tiny leaf umbrella and looked terribly upset. "What's wrong?" Finn asked, kneeling beside the squirrel. "My boat," the squirrel squeaked, pointing to a leaf boat that was stuck in the middle of the stream. Without a second thought, Liora took off her yellow boots, rolled up her pants, and waded into the chilly water. She carefully untangled the boat from a cluster of twigs and brought it back to the squirrel. "Oh, thank you," the squirrel said, its voice full of relief. "You're very kind." It tipped its tiny umbrella in gratitude before scampering off into the forest. As they walked on, Finn noticed something strange. "Look, the path, it's glowing." Sure enough, the trail ahead shimmered faintly, as if the forest was pleased with them. Further along, they came across a clearing where a baby fox was trapped in a snare made of vines. Its tiny paws scratched the air as it struggled to free itself. "We have to help it," Liora said, running forward. Finn hesitated. What if it's a trick? What if the vines are enchanted? "It doesn't matter. It needs us," Liora said firmly. Working together, they untangled the vines, careful not to hurt the fox. Once free, it gave a happy yip and rubbed its head against their hands before darting away into the trees. The forest seemed to grow even brighter, the soft humming now joined by the distant sound of birdsong. As they continued, the challenges grew trickier. They came across a family of fireflies whose home had been destroyed by a fallen branch. Liora and Finn carefully cleared the debris and used leaves and twigs to rebuild a tiny shelter. The sun filtered softly through the trees as Liora and Finn wandered further into the magical forest, their footsteps quiet on the mossy ground. They had already helped a squirrel rescue its tiny leaf boat and freed a baby fox tangled in vines. Each time, the forest seemed to grow warmer and brighter, as if it were thanking them. They continued along the winding path when a faint, high-pitched sound reached their ears. "Do you hear that?" Liora asked, pausing mid-step. Finn tilted his head, listening intently. "It sounds like chirping?" Following the sound, they came to the edge of a crystal-clear pond. Its surface glittered in the dappled sunlight, and a gentle breeze sent ripples across the water. But what caught their attention was a small group of ducklings huddled together near the water's edge. Their tiny yellow feathers fluffed out as they chirped anxiously, waddling in circles. "Oh no, they're lost," Liora exclaimed, kneeling down to get a closer look. The ducklings peeped louder as if they understood her. Leora's heart ached at the sight of them, their tiny webbed feet shifting nervously as they looked around for their mother. "We have to help them," she said firmly. Finn crouched beside her, pulling out his sketchbook. "Let's figure out where they came from. Maybe they wandered off." He flipped to a fresh page and began sketching the pond, the surrounding trees, and the path they had just walked. Finn's pencil moved quickly as he added small details. A patch of cattails by the water, a fallen log, and faint tracks in the mud that looked like they could belong to a larger duck. "What are you drawing?" Liora asked, watching over his shoulder. "Ah," Finn replied. "If we can figure out where they came from, we can lead them back to their mother." The ducklings watched curiously as Finn worked, their chirping quieting as if they trusted him. After a few moments, Finn held up his sketch. "Look here," he said, pointing to a trail of faint webbed footprints leading away from the pond and into the forest. "These tracks might lead us to their mother." Liora nodded, her excitement renewed. "Come on, little ones," she said, gently motioning for the ducklings to follow. The ducklings waddled after her in a single file, their tiny feet pattering softly on the ground. Finn led the way, holding his map and glancing at the footprints for guidance. The group moved slowly, careful not to stray from the faint trail. As they walked, the forest seemed to guide them. The trees swayed gently, their branches parting to let in more light, and the whispering hum of the woods grew softer, as if encouraging their progress. After a short while, they came to a small clearing where a stream trickled gently over smooth stones. On the far side of the stream stood a mother duck, her sleek brown feathers glistening in the sunlight. She quacked anxiously, pacing along the bank as if searching for something. "Look, there she is," Liora said, pointing excitedly. The ducklings immediately began chirping louder, their little feet quickening as they hurried toward the stream. The mother duck spotted them and flapped her wings, letting out a joyful quack. She waded into the stream, swimming across to meet her babies. Liora and Finn watched as the family reunited, the ducklings gathering around their mother, peeping happily. The mother duck nuzzled each one, her feathers ruffling with relief. Finn smiled, tucking his map back into his sketchbook. "We did it," he said, a sense of pride in his voice. Liora beamed. "That was the sweetest thing I've ever seen. Look how happy they are." The forest seemed to echo their joy. A soft breeze rustled through the leaves, and the sunlight grew a little brighter. As the reunited duck family swam off together, Liora and Finn stood quietly, feeling the warmth of having done something good. "Do you think the forest saw that?" Liora asked as they turned to continue their journey. "I think it did," Finn replied. "And I think it's leading us exactly where we're meant to go." Hand in hand, they walked back to the path, the magical forest humming gently around them as they ventured deeper into its mysteries. The humming seemed to shift as they walked, becoming softer when they hesitated and louder when they found the right direction. Liora was the first to notice a faint glow up ahead, flickering like a distant lantern. "Look," she said, tugging Finn's arm. They followed the glow, their steps quickening with anticipation. The air around them grew sweeter, carrying the scent of wildflowers and something else. Something almost electric, like the air before a storm. As they turned a corner, the source of the glow came into view, a ring of mushrooms encircling a tiny pool of water. The mushrooms shimmered faintly, their caps glowing in shades of blue, green, and gold. The water in the center was perfectly still, reflecting the light like a mirror. Finn knelt beside it, fascinated. "It's beautiful," he murmured, pulling out his sketchbook to capture the sight. While Finn sketched, Liora reached out to touch one of the glowing mushrooms, her fingers hovering just above its surface. The forest seemed to hum louder, as if encouraging her. Gently, she tapped the mushroom, and to her astonishment, it let out a soft chime, like the sound of a tiny bell. "Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice tinged with excitement. Finn looked up from his drawing, nodding. "Try another one." Liora tapped another mushroom, and it chimed in a slightly higher pitch. One by one, she tested the mushrooms, their soft tones forming a melody that blended seamlessly with the forest's hum. Finn joined in, tapping a rhythm on the caps with his pencil. Together, they created a gentle song, and for a moment, it felt like the forest itself was singing with them. The glowing pool began to ripple as if stirred by an invisible hand. Liora and Finn stepped back, watching in amazement as the water shimmered and rose, forming a figure of light and mist. The figure took the shape of a graceful deer with antlers that sparkled like frost. Its eyes, glowing softly, seemed to hold endless wisdom. "Travelers," the deer said, its voice like a soft breeze, "you have ventured far into the whispering woods. Why do you seek its heart?" Liora swallowed her nervousness and stepped forward. "We're looking for answers," she said. "For adventure. To see the magic that everyone talks about." The deer tilted its head, considering her words. "The forest rewards those who are kind and brave," it said. "Continue on your path, and you will find what you seek. But remember, the greatest treasures are not always the ones you expect." Before they could reply, the deer dissolved into a swirl of light, fading back into the pool. The forest fell quiet, the glowing mushrooms dimming until only the faint hum remained. Liora and Finn exchanged a look, their hearts pounding with excitement and wonder. Without a word, they turned back to the path, their hands finding each other again. The forest seemed different now, its mysteries deeper and its hum richer, like a promise of the adventures yet to come. They walked on, the path winding like a ribbon through the trees. Each step felt like a step towards something extraordinary, something only the forest could reveal. And though they didn't know what lay ahead, they knew one thing for certain: they would face it together. Each time they helped, the forest rewarded them. The trees seemed to part more easily, the light grew warmer, and the air filled with a sense of quiet approval. Finally, they reached the heart of the forest, where a massive oak tree stood, its trunk so wide it would take 10 people to wrap their arms around it. Sitting on a low branch was the guardian owl. Its feathers shimmered like stardust, and its golden eyes seemed to hold the wisdom of the entire forest. "You have done well," the owl said, its voice deep and resonant. "You've shown kindness, courage, and a willingness to help others." Liora and Finn stood in awe as the owl spread its wings. The ground trembled slightly, and a hidden door in the oak tree creaked open. Inside was a small glowing room filled with treasures, glistening jewels, golden coins, and a crown that sparkled like the night sky. But in the center of the room was a simple wooden chest. "What's in there?" Liora asked, stepping forward. The owl nodded toward it. "Open it and see." Liora and Finn lifted the lid. Inside were seeds, tiny, golden, and glowing faintly. "Seeds?" Finn said, puzzled. "These are the true treasure," the owl explained. "Plant them, and they will grow into magical trees that will bring life and prosperity to your village." Liora smiled. "We'll take care of them." The owl nodded approvingly. "Go now, and use this gift wisely." When Liora and Finn returned to the village, the setting sun bathed the cobblestone streets in warm golden light. As they approached, their footsteps crunching on the gravel path, villagers began to gather, drawn by the excited whispers of the children who had seen them coming from the edge of the whispering woods. It wasn't every day someone ventured into the mysterious forest and came back with a story to tell. "Where have you been?" called Mrs. Merriweather, the baker, wiping her hands on her apron. Her rosy cheeks, always glowing from the heat of her oven, looked even redder with curiosity. Liora held up the wooden chest they had brought back. Its lid was slightly ajar, revealing the faint golden glow of the magical seeds inside. "We've been to the heart of the whispering woods," she said, her voice steady and filled with excitement. "And we've brought back a treasure." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The village elders, who were sitting on a long wooden bench by the square, exchanged curious glances. "Come closer, children," said Elder Thorn, the oldest of them, his voice creaking like an ancient tree. "Let us see this treasure of yours." Liora and Finn stepped forward, their hearts pounding as they approached the elders. Finn carefully opened the chest, revealing the glowing seeds nestled inside. The light they emitted was soft yet warm, casting a golden glow on the faces of those gathered around. "What are they?" asked Elder Maren, her sharp eyes fixed on the shimmering seeds. "They're magical seeds," Finn explained. "The guardian owl of the Whispering Woods gave them to us. It said they would help our village thrive." The elders murmured among themselves, their expressions a mix of wonder and skepticism. Finally, Elder Thorn nodded. "Then we must plant them and see what the forest has gifted us." The villagers worked together to prepare the soil in the square. Children ran to fetch water from the well, while the farmers brought tools to dig small holes. Under the soft light of lanterns, Liora and Finn planted the seeds, carefully covering them with earth. The next morning, the villagers gathered again, their curiosity too great to wait. To their amazement, the seeds had already sprouted. Delicate silver shoots rose from the ground, glimmering faintly in the morning sun. By noon, the shoots had grown into slender trees with bark that gleamed like polished silver and leaves that shimmered as if woven from sunlight and water. Everyone stood in awe, marveling at the tree's beauty. The branches bore fruit of every imaginable color, deep ruby reds, brilliant yellows, and soft greens. When one brave child plucked a fruit and bit into it, they gasped. "It's the sweetest thing I've ever tasted," they exclaimed, their cheeks sticky with juice. The trees also sprouted flowers unlike anything the villagers had ever seen. Their petals glowed softly, even in daylight, casting a gentle radiance over the square. At night, the flowers shone brighter, bathing the village in a peaceful, golden light. "These trees are a blessing," said Elder Thorn, his voice thick with emotion. "They will provide us with food, light, and beauty for generations." Liora and Finn beamed with pride, watching as their gift brought the entire village together. People who rarely spoke now shared stories beneath the glowing branches, their laughter filling the air. Children played around the trees, their games illuminated by the flowers' soft glow. The villagers quickly realized the fruits had another miraculous quality: they never spoiled. A basket of fruit left on a table remained as fresh weeks later as the day it was picked. Soon, the village had more food than they could eat, and they began sharing it with neighboring villages, spreading the magic far and wide. At night, families would gather in the square, sitting beneath the glowing trees. Musicians played songs on fiddles and flutes, and storytellers wove tales of bravery, kindness, and the magical adventure of Liora and Finn. One evening, Elder Marin approached Liora and Finn as they sat under the largest tree. "You've done something extraordinary," she said, her voice soft but firm. "You didn't just bring back magic, you brought us closer together." Liora looked at Finn, her heart swelling with happiness. "We couldn't have done it without each other," she said. Finn nodded, his glasses catching the glow of the flowers above. "And without the forest, it trusted us to do the right thing." From that day on, the village thrived like never before. And though Liora and Finn went on many more adventures, none was as magical or as meaningful as the one that brought the glowing trees to their home. Every time they walked through the square, they were reminded of the power of kindness, courage, and friendship, and the adventure that changed their village forever. From then on, the village thrived, and Liora and Finn became heroes. Every evening they would sit beneath the magical trees, sharing cookies and stories, their friendships stronger than ever, and their hearts full of joy.